isn't a Scotsman anywhere worthy of the name who wouldn't feel a little tingle on the back of his neck were he to stand on this patch of grass on the south side of Glasgow, because this is Hampden Park, the home of Scottish football since the early years of the century, a place full of memories. They say if you have a powerful imagination, you can even hear the ghosts of the great players of the past, or maybe even distantly, the fabled Hampden Roar. And yet, for all the great matches that have been played here over the years, all the cup ties and the internationals, one fixture in particular occupies a very special place in the hearts and the minds of Scottish football fans. And that is, of course, the meeting with the Auld Enemy. Scotland versus England has always meant that little bit more. So it's strange to think that it all began on what is now a cricket ground. The oldest football international in the world began here in 1872, Scotland against England at Hamilton Crescent in Glasgow. It's now the home of the West of Scotland Cricket Club, ironically. And the score that day long ago, Scotland 0, England 0. There has been no shortage of goals since then, of course, both here at Hampden and at Wembley. By 1928, the Wembley weekend was already a keenly anticipated aspect of the Scottish sporting calendar. And the result that day was very much to Scotland's liking. Those few seconds of grainy old black and white film, and this, the match ball, really just about all that remains of that great day in Scottish football history. March 1928, Scotland 5, England 1, the ball autographed by the Wizards themselves. All the names are on there: Hughie Gallagher and Alex James, round on the other side, Alan Morton, and the goalkeeper, Jack Harkness. Well, we've now moved inside Hampden to the club room to talk about those Scotland-England games of years gone by, and I've been joined by two gentlemen who know more than most about those matches. Firstly, John Gregg of Rangers, capped 44 times for Scotland, 8 of those against England, 4 of them as captain. And the journalist John Blair, now the SFA's press liaison officer, a man much respected in Scottish football, who has in fact missed only 2 Scotland-England games since 1947. Well, let's talk about the Wembley Wizards, firstly with you, John. None of us were there, I'm happy to say, but why do you think it has gone into Scottish football folklore?
Well, it seems to be a legend which has lasted for so long, for all of 60 years, and they just keep talking about it, and it comes out with quiz questions. People want to know what was the team. It was 5-1, and there have been results which have been perhaps more important, less important, but they still cling to this great legend of the Wembley Wizards. It's just magic.
Yeah, and it wasn't even a sort of very well-respected team, was it?
No, there were some doubts before the team was chosen, and they went down very austere circumstances compared to today. But the names are magic, because the Jameses and the Gallaghers, McMullins, Tim Dunn, they all slip off the tongue to people who had never even had any chance of ever seeing the game.
The English, of course, will say that we only won because the referee was a Scotsman.
Yes, it was a man called Willie Bell who was a Scot. I don't know why they had a Scottish referee. And an interesting point, too, is that one of the linesmen was Sir Stanley Rouse, who was later become the president of the FIFA.
John, you, of course, weren't there in 1928. You missed that by a few years. But again, why do you think they in particular have been immortalised?
Well, first of all, I missed that game with a late fitness test. I didn't pass it. But I think they're immortalised now, and it's a great tribute to these players because, as John rightly says, it's over 60 years since that match. But even today, people are very much aware of these famous names, and the Wembley Wizards will live forever, I believe.
Well, let's move on then to 1967, a game you do know all about, John, because you played and indeed captained Scotland that day. Great build-up, because England were the world champions.
Yeah, as players, I think we felt going down to Wembley, it was always great to play at Wembley. I think most of the players preferred to play at Wembley than play at Hampden. England were on an unbeaten run of 19 international matches. They were current world champions, so there was a little bit added touch to this game where we wanted to beat them. We were more determined than ever to beat them, if you can be, for a match at Wembley. And we played very well that day, won by 3-2, and being Scottish, of course, we became the unofficial world champions.
Wembley. Bobby Moore and John Gregg were the captains. England versus Scotland. Neither Bobby, his team, nor England supporters believed Scotland had a chance. How wrong they were destined to be. But as the Scots set the ball rolling, it seemed a foregone conclusion that England would triumph again. The men from north of the border were out to humble the Sassenachs and were confident they could. They weathered an early attack. After 19 games without defeat, England had the shock of their lives. Dennis Law scored for Scotland. England were one down inside half an hour. Jackie Charlton tested Simpson, but Scotland's new goalkeeper was not caught napping. Law and his teammates already scented victory. At half-time, England was still 1 goal behind, and with Jackie Charlton limping from a broken toe, the champions were up against it. But surely they couldn't lose, not on this classic turf where they whipped the world's best last summer. For most of the second half, Scotland's attacks were parried. Gordon Banks was in great form. In quest of an equaliser, England gave Simpson some chances to show his mettle. Another Scottish attack. Danger from Lennox. Banks came to the rescue again. Despite his injury, Jackie Charlton managed the shot. He said he thought the ball was over the line. The referee ruled otherwise. Maybe that escape galvanized Scotland into decisive action. Bremner had the ball. He passed to Law. To Lennox, and it was the Scots' second goal. Barely 12 minutes left, and now England all but scored. John Gregg headed off the line. Then Law menaced the English defence. Only the genius of Banks prevented a goal. Five minutes left. A pass found the gallant Jackie Charlton. England had scored at last. All hopes of an equaliser were shattered by Jim McCalliagh. A great match for McCalliagh, playing his first full international. 2 minutes before the end, Geoff Hurst scored England's second goal. Scotland had beaten the World Cup winners hands down. In those sensational last minutes, England tried to hit back, but too late. The game will go down to football history as one of the greatest that Scotland ever played. For thousands of their supporters, it was Wembley belongs to me, turf and all.
So the party began, John. Of all the caps you won for your country, and you brought one of them along today, was that one that sticks in your mind more than most?
Oh, I think so, because all of that, the stuff I said before, Dougie, about England, 19 games, world champions, it was marvellous to beat England in that situation at Wembley. And we had some good players on our side then. It was just a pity we didn't qualify for the World Cup during that spell. But It probably goes down as one of the vintage games for Jim Baxter, who, quite rightly so, he did have a great game that day. But I'll always remember that day, particularly for Ronnie Simpson. 36 years of age, your first cap against England at Wembley. He was the grandfather of the party. I remember him saying to the attendant in the dressing room, "You look in this door behind us," and the boy says, "Yeah, what for?" He says, "Well, I'm leaving my pension book in my pocket. I don't want to get stolen." But we carried him on, you know, and he had a great game, Ronnie, and I was pleased for him.
And interesting to see again that save by Gordon Banks.
They talk about Gordon Banks' save against Pelé in the World Cup finals in Mexico in 1970. But this save he had in that match from Dennis Law, when Dennis tried to chip him, he got back, got his one hand to it and pulled it out of there. And I reckon that's as good a save as I've seen in football. In fact, if Banks hadn't been in world-class form that day, we would have scored a lot more. England got a consolation goal 2 minutes to go to make the score look a lot tighter, but really we outclassed them.
John, you watched Jim Baxter many times. You could have seen him better than that, only rarely, I would have thought.
Well, we had many great players at the time, but the influence of Baxter on the game was tremendous. It's a significant point that he played 5 times against England, and on only one occasion did he lose. So he really had something on these England games.
And of course, it was the great Wembley weekend tradition by then, of course. Thousands of Scots literally taking over the ground, really, didn't they?
They did, that's right. It was a day of a weekend of celebration, indeed.
Tell me, John, is it a game you've watched many times since?
No, I've actually never seen the whole game, Dougie. The only time I've seen any clip of the game was, I think, the following week in the cinema. I just saw a short clip of it, and that was all.
So you're enjoying this as much as anyone,
Yeah,
obviously.
it's fascinating to see some of the old players there and see some things that happened.
Yeah. Now, you saved our bacon with the header off the goal line, didn't you?
Yeah, well, that's funny, you know. Ronnie Simpson and I had a chat in the dressing room before the game, and I wasn't particularly good in the air for a centre-half, and Ronnie wasn't a big goalkeeper, so we decided that if the ball came anywhere near the 6-yard box, if Ronnie was coming out his goals to try and go for it, I would go back onto the goal line and cover him. And this is exactly what happened in this incident. You see, Willie was asleep and allowed Martin Peters time to cross the ball in, and big Jack Charlton playing at centre forward at the time because he was injured. He beat Ronnie to the ball. Ronnie got caught between the 6-yard line and the goal line, and it just so happened that Jackie headed it straight to me, and I put over the crossbar. It worked. It doesn't always work, but it did on that occasion.
John Gregg, number 4, there he is, the Scottish skipper, and he certainly saved Scotland then. Jack Charlton got his head to it, and you can see John Gregg saying, "Come on, let's bear down, let's not lose this 1-goal lead." And Scotland very nearly did at that moment.
Well, let's move back to 1963 now, gentlemen. The Wembley victory by 2-1. And it had a tragic start, that game, John, didn't it?
That was the one when Eric Caldor got the leg break in 6 minutes. That was a remarkable game because down to 10 men and no subs. Davy Wilson of Rangers went back to left back, and for a normal, what we call the left winger in these days, he had a superb game at left back. But the whole team seemed to get that bit of spirit, that bit of national spirit that day, and went on to great things, and it was a great game and a great victory.
And here we are, Wembley, April 1963, England versus Scotland, the deciding match for the International Championship. A match appropriately fit to grace the new magnificent Wembley Stadium. As you can see, the flags fluttering beautifully in the afternoon breeze, the new floodlights erected for the new Wembley Stadium itself, the new apron stand, the new press box, but the same old Wembley magic, the same old Wembley pitch. And the stage set for the decisive match of the 1962-63 International Championship. And off we go. Scotland kick off with no late changes on either side. The team's at full strength. England quickly first of all. Banks, Armfield, Byrne, Moore, Norman and Flowers, Douglas, Greaves, Smith, Mealy and Charlton, and Scotland going through in the opening seconds here. Right half Moore dribbling about in his own penalty box, coolly turning the ball downfield. A long one from Mackay it is. Turned back to Mackay, sticks his foot in it, still in play. Henderson has possession. St John back to Henderson, Henderson out in front, nobody there, and my goodness, nearly a sensation there as Moore turned the ball back to Banks, who had to throw himself full length to save. Long kick downfield, an awkward one. Smith, nice control. Overrunning it, Caldo steps in, picked up by Ewer. Caldo hot there, Smith, both of them clashing. Surely the Wembley hoodoo is not going to strike so early in this game. Both players lying injured on the ground, but away comes Scotland. Smith and Caldo lying in agony inside the Scottish half. Play raging on. Referee Leo Horn giving Scotland the advantage. Douglas gives the ball back to the goalkeeper, and the whistle does finally go. 6 minutes gone here at Wembley, and a moment of real drama as Eric Caldo and Bobby Smith lie stretched out on the turf. Both clashing for a loose ball. Caldo seems to be in real pain there. Trainer Harvey moving in. Bobby Smith also in trouble. And it looks as if a stretch has been called for. My goodness gracious me, so soon in this game. Tragedy strikes for Scotland, and it could also be the same for England too. Baxter lying on the ground with Hamilton trying to comfort the Scottish captain. Greaves shouting for a stretcher. One comes out very quickly. Wembley, the ground with the amazing reputation of causing an injury, or at least one serious injury, in big game after big game. Bobby Smith limping off. He doesn't seem to be too badly hurt, but what can we say about Caldo? Scottish team manager Ian McCall coming on from the far side. The Scottish players having a midfield conference here. Scotland losing their captain before the game really gets underway. And the English players are also grouped round the very still form of Eric Caldo. When Ian Ure came over to help him up, he waved him away and said, "Just leave me," and there he goes. Caldo goes off, accompanied by Ian McCall, trainer Harvey, Davy Wilson, Dennis Law in there. The Scots having a quick conference to see what they're going to do about this. Smith's knees are being examined. Alf Ramsey, the England team manager, in there as well. And let's fervently hope that these are not serious injuries, but at the moment it doesn't look at all good, and I wonder if we'll see these talented players back on the field again in this game. We'll just have to wait and see. So there it is. That's taken up 3 or 4 minutes of our time. Play goes on immediately in front of us here, with a throw-in to Scotland on the halfway line. Well, we'll see if this game, which opened so brilliantly, can fulfill the promise. Wilson has dropped back to half-back. Baxter's lying deep, and it looks as if the Scots are going to play a man short on the left wing. Wilson into the middle. Over it comes. Good save by goalkeeper Banks. Greaves for England. Scotland and England, each with 10 men. The crowd roars for Scotland. White and Henderson, the two little ones, facing 6-footers. Here comes a curling cross. It's a good one. Punched away by Banks, but not cleared. Milia for England. Baxter working hard on this game for Scotland. St John in the centre. This could be dangerous. There goes the pass. If Henderson could reach it, it could be dangerous also. Henderson now with Law on the right, backing up. White going into the centre. Henderson need to beat his man, which he does. Henderson gets it across. St John, nobody there. Almost a chance for Baxter, but I think he just felt he couldn't reach it, but he does get possession. It could still be dangerous. Baxter for Scotland. Where's it go? "29 minutes gone, and 30,000 Scots go mad." Left half Baxter got 2 chances at it. Magnificent left foot crasher into the back of the net. England nothing, Scotland 1. England fighting for the equaliser. Cutting it back, Mackay gets there first, takes the ball away from Milia's toes. Scotland playing with great courage. White back to Mackay. Mackay across the far side. Hamilton coming through, first time to White. Scotland playing well. Mackay in beautiful open position for a return pass. Turns it through to Law. 1, 2, 3, 4 men moving in as Law trying to set it up. Wriggling his way through here. A back heeler to Mackay. Mackay has a go. It's blocked. It's back again to Mackay. Trying to steer it onto the wing, which he does. Henderson has it now. Henderson coming through. Cuts in field inside the box. Down he comes. A penalty. Penalty to Scotland. "31 minutes of the game gone. What a chance for Scotland to go 2 goals up. Eric Caldo, the captain, is off. Mackay says to Baxter, "It's up to you, Jim." And here comes Baxter to make it 2-0 for Scotland, we hope. What a glorious chance this could be for Scotland. Chance of a lifetime for Jim Baxter. Here he comes. It's there! 2 goals in 4 minutes. Scotland's Wembley hopes go soaring. 2 goals for Scotland, 2 goals for Baxter, and the whole complexion of the game dramatically, sensationally changed. Off we go into the second half. Scotland with 10 men, no sign of Eric Carlow. England with Bobby Smith just collecting a pass back in the side, put it outside right. 11 against 10, 10 and a half against 10, and right away it's Greaves going through. Scotland defending Durley, and Law passing back to Bill Brown immediately. A roar for England as Charlton comes racing through the centre with Greaves on his left and Douglas on his right. Out it goes to Douglas. Douglas working his way in back to Charlton. Charlton lining up for a shot, but he's blocked in the last minute. Greaves shoots. A fantastic save by Brown. Brown hot though, as Wilson jumped over his head. A fabulous save by the Scots goalie though. 11 minutes to go as Ure misses his chance. Great chance here for Douglas to score for England. It's there. Ian Ure's one slip lets Brian Douglas in to score for England. 11 minutes from time. Ian St John lying injured on the far side. The goal certainly no more than England's second half pressure deserved, and I would say the Scots faced with a pretty stern last 10 minutes in this game to hold on to their 2-1 lead. English defence lining up. Baxter's there with Law and St John. There is shuffling going on. Baxter, Mackay, and it hits the bar! What a shot from Davy Mackay. It's all over. Well done, the Scots. A tremendous second half performance. Tiring all the way, but they hung on magnificently, and on to the field streamed joyful Scottish supporters hugging their heroes as well they might. This has been a magnificent game. England tried their damnedest in the second half to pull back the 2-goal deficit, and there's the Scots with the Scottish flag off behind the goal. Wilson, White, Henderson, just 3 of the 11 Scottish heroes. And look at that terracing to the left of the entrance. A sea of tartan, a sea of Ryan Lampants. The Scots, I think, would like to carry the flag round the track. The officials say no. And for them, for the boys now, it's into the bath. And the final memory of Wembley 1963 was well done Scotland with the score again. Scotland 2, England 1.
You were an established first-team player with Rangers at the time, John, to make your debut the following year, and that was the first Wembley you were at, wasn't it?
That was the first time I would ever set foot in Wembley Stadium, Dougie, and quite a few of my teammates playing in that match. I think that was the start of the vintage Baxter years, playing against England. Great story about that game. Jim Baxter, to this day, always reckons that he'll be remembered for the 2 goals he scored in that match, but he had a tackle with his right foot in that game. Now, you know Jimmy Baxter never tackled. He couldn't tackle a fish supper, but he tackles an English player, nearly killed him in that game with his right foot. And he remembers that morning he did the 2 goals.
It's interesting to watch it now, John, and realise that it was a 10-man Scottish team. It was before substitutes.
That's right. There was something which seemed to inspire them. And as a matter of fact, I thought that Scotland were lucky not to score more goals, because my memory of the game is that Gordon Banks had a super game. He had some really amazing saves, and Jimmy Greaves, then approaching a peak, just could do nothing at all in front of goal.
We'll go back a little bit further. We're not taking these matches in chronological order, obviously, and sadly, very sadly, there is absolutely nothing in existence of the 1937 game, John, and that must have been a marvellous game to see.
Well, the crowd there was 149,549, and it still stands as an all-British record. And the statistics from that one I remember is that the gate takings were £20,000, and each player was paid £6. And when you compare that with today's fabulous figures and finances, it just wouldn't stand up.
And Scotland, of course, won 3-1 that day with Bob McPhail scoring 2 goals. 149,000 people, incredible. 1949, 12 years on. Now, you were there, John,
Yes.
and that was Jimmy Cowan's Wembley.
Well, in my mind, that compares with the Wembley Wizards, because it was a marvellous day, and it's still tagged as Jimmy Cowan's match. It was really an astounding game, in as much that Scotland were in top for almost all of the game. George Young was the skipper, there was Laurie Riley, Billy Steele, Jimmy Mason, great players and great names. And Cowan, in spite of all the work he had, never put a foot wrong or a hand wrong. And I remember that when they went back to Glasgow, these days you travel by train, not by air as we do now, but when they went back to Glasgow, there was a crowd of almost 10,000 at Glasgow Central Station waiting to acclaim this marvellous hero. I mean, a marvellous man in a marvellous match, and I think remembered by many people with almost the same acclaim as they do the Wizards.
The biggest upset since Bannockburn. England hot favourites are the latest certainty to come unstuck. After Prince Philip had met the teams, the record 100,000 crowd, including Prime Minister Attlee, waited for them to turn on the fireworks. Nobody south of Berwick gave a thought to Scotland, but right from the kick-off, the blue shirts are there, at first battling to hold their own lines, and then sweeping forward to the attack. Only in flashes does England's old form break through. Newcastle's Jackie Milburn, number 9, tries hard all the time, but goalie Cowan stops everything. After him, Billy Steele, number 10, is Scotland's other hero. Fast, elusive, the Derby dribbler makes up Scotland's finest left wing for years. In England's defence, Neil Franklin really shines. In the attack, old-timer Stanley Matthews is having a lean day. 2 defenders mark him non-stop, and Billy Steele is there to help them out. Scotland are gaining the upper hand when suddenly it happens. Aitken throws in. Steele sends the ball forward to Riley. The Hibernian man centres and Mason flicks it in. One down, England start the second half badly shaken. Only Mortensen and Milburn, number 9, here sweeping through the Scottish defence, live up to their reputations. But they can do nothing against the cat-like Jimmy Cowan. And Scotland are there again. Hooliston beats Swift to the ball, and Billy Steele has only to tap it in. Heroes everyone. The Scots play the game of their lives. Cool and confident, they show superb ball control. None better than Willie Waddle, number 7. The wily Glasgow Ranger has England defenders running in circles, and with Jimmy Mason, number 8, forms a forceful right wing. Only a desperate tackle stops Mason here. It's Waddle again. What a winger. What a joy to watch. A beautiful centre, and Riley heads goal number 3. Without any fuss, this unheralded young Scots team, all but one coming from Scottish clubs, have trounced the best England can turn out. Only once do the white shirts get the better of them. Mortensen sends the ball out to Tom Finney. The Preston winger, who had been playing below his best, sends over a lovely centre. Mortensen shoots, and Milburn's foot sends the ball into the net. A consolation goal indeed, for Scotland's triumph is complete.
You see the game. Get bogged in the halfway.
That's right.
The game flowed back and forward there.
That's right.
You enjoyed that one, John, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought it was great. That gave me a lot of satisfaction, and I enjoy watching that more than I watch some games on a Saturday nowadays. There were some great players in the field there, both sides, and great Scottish performance.
And Willie Waddle.
Yeah, I didn't think the gaffer was as good a player as that.
Now, you were just a young lad in 49, but you were saying when we were watching that you've got your own memories of that match.
1949 was really the first time I ever realised anything about Scotland and England. It was my 3 older brothers leaving to go to Wembley with the tartan bonnets on and the scarves to match and the rosettes and the jacket. And I didn't realise they were going to see a football match. And off they went for the weekend. They saved up all year, so much a week, and they enjoyed it. And you know, to see them going away to Wembley and then me playing and walking out there captain Scotland at Wembley a number of years later, it just doesn't seem right. It was a dream come true.
And you, of course, John, have your memories too as a young reporter.
I have a very personal memory of that particular game. On the Thursday, I was sent over by my sports editor to see the team off from Glasgow Central Station. And being naive, I thought I'd go and see George Young, who was the captain. And I said, "What would your tactics be, Mr. Young?" He said, "Tactics? I couldn't tell you." He said, "Well, wait and see how we go on Saturday and we'll see what they're doing." I mean, you think on how modernised our game has become now and how we prepare to have won that game in these conditions, on that pre-planning. It was really astonishing.
Yeah. And again, it will be amazing for a lot of people watching this to think of a Scottish team without a manager.
Without a manager, virtually George Young was the manager. He looked after everything. He was really the big man in the team, and he looked after the younger players, and that was great. He was an immense man, 6'4", 46 chest, instantly recognisable, often on the field. George Young was a very, very big man in football.
Well, let's stay with Wembley, John, and move on almost 30 years, in fact, 1977, when I think we went down with a little bit of fear and trepidation, didn't we?
Well, that's correct, Dougie. We had gone 10 years, which was 5 visits. This was our 5th visit to Wembley without winning. We'd lost a lot of goals in between, heavy defeats, and we went there hoping to get some kind of result. Any kind of result would have been a bonus for us in that year.
It is Cherry or not, but it looks like him, and there's Ray Clements. Now, he knows he's going to be under a bit of pressure now. Now, can Scotland just before half-time nick something here? They all went in there! Well, it's in there, whether it was McQueen, I think, who put it there. 1-0 to Scotland, Gordon McQueen. Here's the floated free kick from Asa Hartford. McQueen jumping well with Rioch. Yes, McQueen's header. Wide of Ray Clements, and Scotland are in the lead. From another angle, how that big man gets up. Here's Johnston. There's a goodish cross there towards Bruce Rioch, nodding in again towards Macari. Oh, and Dalglish. And it's there, number 2, Kenny Dalglish. There's the cross by Willie Johnston. And there's Rioch, the back heel by Macari. There's Kenny Dalglish. Macari going for it, but it's Dalglish who forces it over. Touch there by Pearson for Francis, and this time it's a penalty for England. That looked a bit on the harsh side, I must say. But it's a penalty. What about this, Sir Ralph? Trevor Francis going through. Well,
I personally couldn't see anything wrong with the tackle. I think we were very fortunate to get a penalty.
well, here's Mike Shannon against Alan Ruff. And that's 2-1. Getting his jacket on, ready for the final whistle. Don Masson's there, the referee's looking at his watch, and it's almost there, and now it is! A victory for Scotland, 2-1. He added 5 seconds of injury time. Don Reevy goes away with a worried look. Dalglish and McQueen, the Scottish scorers. With Ali MacLeod, who's got the winning touch already.
High time we went back to Hampden then and saw a Scottish victory over England there. The year is 1976, and a year that Ray Clements will never forget, John.
I have a long-standing memory of Ray Clements kneeling on the ground, and the ball has just passed between his legs, and it's a goal for Scotland. And I think it took him years to get over that. It's unbelievable how he missed that ball. But Dalglish put it away, and he must have been practicing now.
Archie Gamaldi, skipper of Scotland, who've already beaten Wales by 3 goals to 1, and Ireland by 3 goals to 0. Danny McGrain is there, Willie Donaghy. Don Masson, the $6 million man that they were talking about. Tom Forsyth is there, Eddie Gray, Joe Jordan, Kenny Dalglish, and Bruce Rioch, a part of this marvellous midfield that Scotland now have built that could still become the biggest threat to England here at Hampden Park this afternoon. The Scots are full of optimism. And why not with only 2 defeats in their last 18 games? Scotland in those dark blue shirts and white shorts, and England now get the game underway, and it's with Mick Mills on the far side. McFarlane's
first touch. The long ball forward there, Pearson trying to duck into it. Jackson far too vigorously into the back of him, and a free kick to England in these opening seconds. Donachie now lifting the ball. Masson's gone up into that England penalty area once again. And Gray was brought down by Todd, and a free kick to Scotland. They brought big Colin Jackson up on the far side. Joe Jordan, brilliant header of the ball on the far side also. England coming back now. They've brought everybody back, in fact, inside their own area. Floated in there deep, a long way. And Clements saving well from Kenny Dalglish. And Clements furious in the way that Dalglish and a couple of other Scots were allowed in there. Jack.
He was entitled to be angry here because he was allowed to run free Kenny Dalglish when he really should have been picked up. Phil Thompson, in fact, ducked under the ball instead of going attacking it.
Mick Mills. A better time run there by the England front runners, but it's come to nothing again. Masson for Scotland. Cut out quite easily, though, by Colin Todd. Francis. Shannon right up there. Gemmell. And a good interception there by Roy McFarlane. A gap opening up ahead of him. Taylor away on the left. Here's Peter Taylor. Played nicely there. Look at McFarlane's run here. And a chance to cross it in again towards Shannon. Goal! McFarlane, the architect of a brilliant opening goal for England, scored by Mick Shannon. Jeff Charlton.
Roy McFarlane did extremely well here. He kept going for this ball. It started to move and kept running for it. He fell off the tackle brilliantly there. The cross was obviously, he was going to play it in with his right foot, and I thought the Scottish left back just left his man a little bit here. A perfect header by Mick Shannon, the sort that we look for from him.
So England get that vital first breakthrough with 11 and a half minutes gone. After Scotland had had more of the play in that opening 11 minutes. So now a test of their character as Forsyth plays it back to Ruff, and certainly a test of the calibre of this young Scottish goalkeeper. McFarlane. Here comes Scotland. Played inside for Danny McGrain. Hit low, and it was Phil Thompson who got that away for England. Kennedy, Keegan. The ball out of play. Scotland's throw. Rioch. Oh! Very nearly an own goal by Phil Thompson. The two Liverpool men there, Clements and Thompson, patting each other, but they know just how close that was.
This is what you call a centre-half's nightmare, a ball coming off the deck just in front of you as you go for it. He was very lucky that he didn't score an own goal.
So it's a corner for Scotland. Masson's going to take it. Floated in there once more. Oh, against the crossbar there from Joe Jordan. Jack?
Said Joe would cause some problems, and this is where he's most dangerous, competing in the air for balls like this. Just on top of the bar. Actually, it was a foot out.
McGrain with the throw. Dalglish on the run. It'll come now to Joe Jordan. But Kenny Dalglish stopped again by Mick Mills. Turned in once more there towards Eddie Gray. Goal kick. No, he's given a corner. Jackson up there, number 5, number 8, Don Masson, Eddie Gray with his corner. Loaded in once more. And he's there! Scored by Masson! They've threatened to do it almost from the word go. And Masson, the architect, is the man who scores the equaliser.
That was a terrible goal from England's point of view. Too many people stood watching the ball. No one went and attacked it. Don Masson took it off the top of his head here. Didn't really know where it was going, but it fit it in the corner.
Scotland closing very quickly, and it's Donaghy. Long ball forward there, McFarlane versus Joe Jordan, and Jordan's got past him. Todd really coming back hard, and still he got it in there to Kenny Dalglish. Could be very interesting. Saved now! Between his legs a goal! Ray Clemens prostrate on the ground. He probably makes one mistake a season like that, and it happens to come at Hampden Park. Dalglish, the scorer. Terrible mistake by Clemens.
Great Joe Jordan here. Looked up and didn't put the ball where he wanted to play it. Back across the middle of the park. Kenny Dalglish did well here. A lot of people would have had a smash at him, but he didn't. He controlled it and played his chance. He's very lucky to get away with it. It goes right between Clemens' legs. Unfortunately for Dave, what a shame.
So a victory that poor Ray Clemens took an awful lot of stick for, and as a fellow professional, John, I'm sure you had absolutely no sympathy for him.
Well, he was kneeling there praying there, Dougie, wasn't he? And Ray Clemens is not the first. He won't be the last out there at Hampden Park that's felt that way. He just wanted the ground to swallow him up. It's one of these unfortunate situations, even worse for a goalkeeper.
It had in fact been our second win in a row at Hampden, because in '74 we'd won as well. A relatively undistinguished game, but I think more importantly it sent us off to the World Cup finals that year in very good heart, didn't it?
Yes, and Willie Ormond, the late Willie Ormond, was in charge of the team. And I, with great respect to all the players in between, I think that was the strongest squad that we have ever sent to a World Cup finals.
Worthington up towards the halfway line. Chance here for Scotland. Jordan. And it's a goal! A deflection, but Scotland have scored. 4 minutes. Joe Jordan banged it in, and there was a deflection. Watch the replay. England have possession. Bremner wins it back, stabs it through. Shilton comes off his line. Jordan goes round, Lorimer goes round him. Jordan kicks it left-footed. The ball spins off David Nish into the net, and Scotland are 1 goal up, and that's a real shock for England. And in fact, Pejic, I think, obviously took that ball over the line with him. He looks a wee bit unhappy about the decision, but there didn't seem to be any arguments about it. So, half an hour played. Scotland have possession on the right. Dalglish out in front. And the ball's in the net! And that's a crazy goal. Half an hour gone and it's a goal. Scotland lead 2-0. The ball turned across. Everybody misses it. It's in the net, and it's 2-0. So Peter Lorimer scores one of the most extraordinary goals Hampden has ever seen, and it's 2-0.
So victory over England, and good to see that Jimmy Johnson had got his land legs back again, wasn't it?
Yes, that game will always be remembered probably because I think Willie Ormond in particular and some of the players wanted to win that game more so than many other matches because of the adverse publicity the team had had in the 2 or 3 days previous down at Largs before playing that match. You know, that was just, you're right, Jimmy's sea legs. He tried to row across the Atlantic single-handed, but somebody pulled him back in for the match.
10 years previously, John, a very special memory for you, 1964.
Certainly was, Dougie. I think every schoolboy that plays football, it's his ambition to play for his country. And in these days, there was always an interleague match, Scotland versus England, in March. And I'd played well down at Sunderland against Jimmy Greaves. Ian McCall was the Scottish team manager. He picked me in the full Scottish side for my first cap in 1964 at Hampden in April. And the funny thing was, he thought I'd be playing against Jimmy Greaves, but England dropped Jimmy Greaves and played another great player, Roger Hunt, who was playing his first cap that day as well. Roger Hunt, of course, of Liverpool.
Scotland, dark shirts versus England. Biggest day of the year at Hampden Park. And as the great match begins, with white-shirted England playing right to left in this scene, nearly 140,000 fans packing the stadium are keyed up to give the Hampden roar the moment the stars of Scotland look menacing. And that's right now. Banks is on the alert, and England's danger passes. Play goes to the Scottish half, and it's the home country's turn to escape. England try again, but without causing Forsyth any trouble. In their last two encounters, Scotland have beaten England. Victory today would be the hat-trick for the first time this century. Another England escape. There are no signs yet that they're potential World Cup winners, though the men in white do retaliate now. Half-time comes without a goal scored. Let's see what the second half can produce. Gilzean races for possession. Hearts miss a beat among the England defenders when Gordon Banks fumbles the slippery ball. That might have been very costly. So far, it's the first half over again. Attacks in plenty by both sides, all failing to produce a goal. Not even Charlton can find the net. Scottish outside left Davy Wilson passes to Jimmy Baxter. He finds an open space for Davy to get the ball again. It's just over the bar. The game's all Scotland now. They win a corner. It's beautifully taken by Wilson. And centre forward Gilzean heads a goal. Scotland could get another one here, but Wilson shoots too high. Scotland win 1-0. 3 games in a row they've beaten England, and they're on top of the world.
A highly successful start to what became a very long international career, John. Can you put into words now, or can you even remember what it felt like to run out there in front of that huge crowd?
Probably the most proud moment of my life, Dougie. I think I was very fortunate to get more than one cap, but I have to say that every time I was given the honour of wearing the Scotland jersey, I felt as proud in every one as I did my first one, and I don't think you can go any higher than that. I think if you get picked for your country, it's a tremendous honour for you, and I think that's why today so many people want to play for their country, and I don't think, even nowadays with big money doesn't come into it. It's that jersey that the players want to play for.
And there's always a great, great shame that that team of the mid-60s never got a chance to play in World Cup finals.
Well, you asked me what it meant to play for Scotland. I think you've just hit the nail on the head as far as my disappointments in the game are concerned. My biggest disappointment wasn't playing World Cup finals. We had a lot of good players, Jim Baxter, Dennis Law, Dave Mackay and Paddy Crown were just starting to move out, but a lot of great individual players, tremendous talent. We never qualified. Nowadays, we qualify no problem, and long may it continue.
And of course it marked a hat-trick of victories for us, which had begun 2 years previously in '62 against England at Hampden when we won 2-0.
Scotland, on the left, took the field against England on what was to be the greatest day for a quarter century in Scottish football. England kicked off, remembering that not for 25 years had Scotland beaten them at Hampden Park. More than 130,000 were thrilled to see the early attack on the England goal. Was it to be the shape of things to come? Inside left for Scotland was Dennis Law, but Springett cut off an early effort. This side looked the best fielded by Scotland for many a year. Law to David Wilson. The wingman shoots. It's in! England tried to snap out of it. Outside right, Douglas had a centre parry. The ball went to Anderson, who just missed. As the half drew to a close, Scotland led by no more than 1-0, though they were a long way better than England. But it's goals that count, and Scotland supporters knew as their heroes kicked off for the second half that a margin of 1 was not enough. England was still in the game, yet not even the genius of Haynes could infuse his attack with real bite. Outside right, Alex Scott tried a shot, just wide. And now England nearly equalised. Haynes shoots, it strikes the underside of the crossbar. The referee says goal, but the linesman thinks otherwise, so it's disallowed. A corner to England. A chance for them now, it could come to something, but the ball's over. 2 minutes from full time, England centre-half Peter Swan handled the ball. Penalty. Calder banged it home. A great win for Scotland.
And that really had been a very long-awaited victory indeed, John, hadn't it?
Well, indeed, it was the first Hampden victory in about 25 years, and helped in some way to let us forget the 7-2s and 9-3s, which we don't talk very much about.
And we certainly won't talk about them here. 1946 is a game that we remember with a lot of affection.
Well, it featured a player who was one of my great favourites, Jimmy Delaney of Celtic. Delaney was a magnificent player, and I don't think he'd got the number of caps he should have got. But he had a unique record in that he won a Scottish Cup medal with Celtic, he won an FA Cup medal with Manchester United, he won a Northern Ireland National Cup winners medal with Glentoran, and he played in the Republic and got a runners-up medal playing for Derry City against Shamrock Rovers, so he always got a 4 in a row.
That's a unique
but
record.
He was a magnificent player and scored the goal in 46.
To a background of the famous Hampden Roar from 140,000 throats, dark-shirted Scotland let loose an all-out offensive, giving English goalie Swift one of his biggest ever tests, and he made it. In a game where Scotland were attacking most of the time, the English forwards never really got together. They took a chance in playing Shackleton, Bradford's boy centre-forward, but it came badly unstuck. The crowd's hopes of a Scots victory went up, and with it went the Glasgow Roar. Play was scrappy most of the time, with England on the defensive. Bad luck came when goalie Swift took her kick in the face, but he carried on and looked like holding the Scotsman to a draw till Lady Luck took a last-minute hand. Husband free-kicked into England's goal mouth, and Delaney scored, and that was it. A 1-0 win for Scotland.
The first post-war international, that Hampden win in 1946, John, although the two countries had met during the war years, hadn't they?
Indeed, they played, I think, 4 or 5 games during the wartime years. And in this one here, you see Sir Winston Churchill greeting the players. And in the picture, there's Jerry, the famous Jerry Dawson, called the Prince of Goalkeepers, Jimmy Smith of Rangers, Tommy Walker of Hearts. Splendid team then, and but during wartime.
That Tommy Walker was some player, John. He didn't know anything about the game. He tried to sign. He came to see me playing as a kid, but didn't think I was good enough.
Probably right.
And there was another one in 44, was it, John?
1944, that's right. This was in aid of the Russian Fund, and it's Mrs. Churchill who was meeting the famous Bill Shankly there, and Torry Gillick of Rangers also in the picture, Jimmy Caskey, I think, of Rangers in there, and Jimmy Carabin, who is now dead. And Sir George Graham, who was the big supremo of the Scottish Football Association at the time.
A snowy January day. Well, from those days of 40 and almost 50 years ago, that's come virtually up to date, at least in terms of Wembley victories, because sadly we haven't won there since 1981. That was John Robertson's penalty kick, John, wasn't it?
Yeah, a great story that, wasn't it, Dougie? That was the time that Nottingham Forest had 2 players in the field that day. Trevor Francis playing for England, John Robertson playing for Scotland. It was a tight game, hard match, could have went either way. Midway through the second half, Scotland were awarded a penalty kick. John Robertson was taking the penalty kicks for Scotland then. As he put the ball down the spot and turned back, walks to take his run up for to take the kick, Trevor Francis passed him. As we walked across to the goals, and we were standing whispering Joe Corrigan, the England goalkeeper's ear. And everybody wondered what he was saying. He was obviously trying to give Joe Corrigan an idea where his clubmate was going to put the ball. But somebody summed up perfectly in the stand sitting beside me when he was asked a question. He says, Trevor Francis says to Joe Corrigan, "Well, Joe, I think we're going to get beat 1-0.
That's a better ball to Proven. Archibald is through the middle. On the blind side of Robson, a chance for that could be a penalty kick. The referee is giving a penalty kick to Scotland. Well, Steve Archibald appeared to get on the blind side of Brian Robson. He seemed to be caught by the West Bromwich defender. And now Scotland, who've been on the receiving end for so long, are back in business.
Well, I thought it was a penalty. He got a yard in front of Robson there, and then was pushed. I mean, he didn't catch him with his feet, I don't think. I think he just pushed him.
So here's John Robertson. He scored 2 out of 2 against Israel last month. Has the chance to put Scotland ahead. Trevor Francis speaking to Joe Corrigan. Nottingham Forest. Inside information perhaps, so it's John Robertson against Joe Corrigan. 1-0 to Scotland. The coolest man in the field perhaps was John Robertson as he put Scotland quite amazingly in front.
Well, whatever information Francis gave to Joe Corrigan, it was bum information because he dived to his left and Robertson tucked it into the right. I think lovely penalty. Scotland won up, and let's just hope that we can hold it now.
And the Lions rampant all around Wembley Stadium. John Robertson's 5th goal for Scotland and his 16th international. That's the clock showing the 20th minute. 1-0 to Scotland. And while a lead may not be thoroughly deserved, we did say in the first half that England may live to regret one or two missed chances, particularly that header from Graham Ricks. So the Scottish hero is John Robertson.
It was the last victory at Wembley, and of course now the whole future of this great fixture, the oldest international match in the world, is in doubt. How do you feel about that, John?
Well, I think it's a match which should never be stopped. I think it's traditional, and I don't think we should stop it because of indiscipline by some small minority of fans, and I think it's something which should be continued.
I would agree with you, John.
Yes, I would go 100% with John. I think it's a tremendous fixture. It's the oldest international in the world. I think the players look forward to it. I think the great majority of the fans enjoy it, both at Hampden and in Wembley. The unfortunate thing about the Scotland-England game, I feel personally, Dougie, is that it used to be the biggest game for Scotland and England. We've qualified for 5 World Cups. I hope that continues. But because of qualifying for World Cups, the English game seems to have fallen in popularity. I think it'd be a sad, sad thing if we lose it altogether, because it has been a tremendous fixture. We've just watched some magic moments. I'm quite sure there'd be many more to come if it was continued.
The most recent victory at Hampden came in 1985 when a depleted Scotland side won the new Sir Stanley Rouse Cup with a 1-0 win, our first Hampden win since 1976 in fact, and it was all thanks to a Richard Gough header after 68 minutes. Let me finish by asking each of you for one particular favourite moment from the history of those great games. John Blair first.
Well, having said it before, I say it again, that 1949 for me was magic moments. And I have a personal interest in the fact that this is the jersey that George Young, Scotland skipper, wore. And that's his international cap there. And I think this is a great personal thing to have from a man who was paid so much tribute as a player and did so much for Scotland. So my memory is 1949.
Another unforgettable Scottish victory, that 3-1 win in April of 1949, with the Scottish goals coming from Jimmy Mason, Billy Steele and Laurie Riley.
The victory went up, and with it went the Glasgow Roar.
John?
I didn't want to bring a jersey because it's still got the blood in it, Danny. But I think I've got to have a toss-up here between 64 and 67. 64, obviously my first cap, playing for Scotland, a tremendous moment. 130,000 people at Hampden Park. But I think I've just got to give it to 67 because I felt like the fans did. We were the world champions.
Yes, a match that will live on in everyone's memory, I think, John, and especially perhaps for Jim Baxter's performance. He really enjoyed beating England, didn't he? Wonderful memories.
And Baxter sticks out a boot to drag it away. Nothing at all goes right for England now. John Gregg. Baxter. Billy Bremner. Finding Lennox. Bremner. And Baxter again. Baxter has come in and out of this game, always been dangerous. Tommy Gemmell. Scotland slowing it down. Taking the mickey out of this England side. And one wonders now, Billy, whether perhaps we're seeing this England World Cup side for the last time in this composition.
Well, on this performance, Hugh, they've been shown up by a much quicker, much more enterprising Scottish side. But one must take away from the fact they have been without Jackie Charlton for a great deal of this match. Now, that on this Wembley pitch is a great disadvantage. And so that I think that the England side, one or two of the forwards I'm disappointed with, but I still think that the defence have done a magnificent job to hold the Scottish side like this. So that I think only up front would I criticise the England side.
Well, the goals have come Scotland's way. England have not got them. They're 2-0 down as Bobby Charlton moves forward. Jack Charlton still bravely limping on. Hurst won't keep that in. And it's still in play with McCready. Leaving it for Law. So much fight in this Scottish side. Jim McCalliog leaving it for Law again. Now Baxter. Law. Remner sending Scotland forward again. The minutes ticking away of this game. Lennox, number 11. Jim McCalliog. Oh, McCalliog! There is number 9, Jimmy McCalliog scores on his international debut for Scotland. 3-1 it is, Scotland now.
Well, thanks very much for enjoying those memories with us. In fact, not just footballing memories of this classic fixture, but in fact memories of another kind too, because one of the interesting things, particularly in the older clips, is looking at the crowd shots. When you see those happy faces, those celebrating faces, it's not just a sporting history we've been watching, it's a little bit of a social history as well.